So hello everyone, I am Aarti Sharma. I did my master from NIT Jalandhar. So today we will discuss about the concept of the metal and the non-metal. I hope you have studied about the periodic table. So total number of elements in periodic table is 118. So on the basis of similarity and the differences, these elements can be classified into two groups, that is metal and the non-metal. So before we go further, let's discuss some definition. The first one is the malleable. The second one is ductile. And the third one is the brittle. So malleable basically means that which can be beaten with hammer and converted into thin sheets. Okay. Ductile basically means which can be stretched and converted into thin wire, and brittle means which break down into pieces on hammering and stretching. Okay, so malleable basically means which can be beaten with hammer and converted to form thin sheets. Ductile basically means which can be stretched and converted into thin wires, and brittle basically means which break down into pieces on hammering or stretching. Okay, so now we will discuss about the metal properties of the metal and the non-metal. Number 1. Metal can be good conductor of heat and the electricity. Metal show the property of luscious. It show the property of sonorous. Metals are basically malleable and ductile. Metals are hard. Metals are strong. Metal has high density. Boiling point and the melting point of metals are high. Non-metal are not good conductor of electricity. It doesn't show the property of luscious. Doesn't show the property of sonorous also. Metals are malleable and ductile, but non-metals are the brittle. And the brittles means which can be break down into pieces on hammering or stretching. As we discussed earlier, non-metals are soft. Non-metal are not so strong. Basically हम weak भी बोल सकते हैं. It has low density. और melting and boiling point is low. One by one we discuss all these points. So one property is also there. chemical reaction, it is important property of the metal. During the chemical reaction, metal can lose its electron and form the positive ions. Aluminium is the metal. It can lose 3 electrons and form the Al plus 3. That means it has a positive ions. That means metal show the electropositive character. On the other side, during the chemical reaction, non-metal can accept the electron and it contains the negative charge on it. Okay, and so that it has the electronegative property. So in environment, there are lots of metal are there. For example, aluminium, silver, iron. Okay. All metal are solid except the mercury. Mercury is a liquid at room temperature. It is very important, right? On the other side, total number of non-metals are 22. 10 are the solid, 11 are the gases, 1 is the liquid. And that one we can learn, that is bromine. Bromine is a liquid and red brown color it has. Okay. So let's discuss one by one all these properties. Why metals are hard, why metals show lustrous property, malleable, ductile, where it can be used. So we will discuss all the points one by one. As I discussed earlier, metals show the property of malleable and ductile. So malleable means which can be beaten with hammer and converted into thin sheets. And ductile, that basically means which can be stretched and converted into thin wire. Malleable को discuss करते हैं. Let's take a metal that is silver. Silver can be hammered and it converted into thin sheets of the silver. And these sheets can be used for the decorating of sweets. As you can see on Kaju Katli, there are silver wrapper. These are the silver metal that can be converted into thin sheets, and these are used for the decoration of the sweets. Another example is the aluminium. Aluminium can be converted into aluminium foil, and these can be used in for wrapping the food. Okay. Other one is the ductile. Ductile basically in which metal can be converted into thin wire. The first very good example of this is the gold. 1 gram of gold on stretching converted into 2 kilometer of wire. Okay, it's important. 1 gram. Can you imagine only 1 gram of gold that can be stretched and converted into 2 kilometer of wires? Okay. Other one example is tungsten. That can be used into the filament of the bulb. It is also a very important property. Okay. Now let's discuss the other property. Okay. The second point is metals are solid. Metals are solid. That basically means metal can be used for the formation of railway track, buildings, etc. Second point is metals are hard. Remember one thing, all metals are not hard. Only certain type of metals are hard. Exceptions are always there in chemistry. So the first example is all metals are hard except the sodium. This is the symbol of sodium, okay? And the potassium. This is the symbol of potassium. These metals can be cut via knife, and all metals are hard, so they cannot be cut via knife. Okay? Another property is metal show sonorous. Sonorous basically means when metal is hit with any object, it makes some sound. Okay. For example, as you can see in your schools, there are ringing bells that all are the metal. That are formed by the metals. Okay. So metal show these type of property. Metal show the property of the sonorous. So metal can be used for the formation of ringing bells. Metal can also be used for the musical instrument also, like guitar, violin, okay, etc. Okay. Next property is lustrous. Lustrous basically means metal has some shining property. Let's take with an example. As you can see, all the metals are show lustrous property. That basically means in your homes you can see like jewelry. All the jewelry has some shining appearance because of the metal. Okay, and these metals, these jewelry, when exposed to the air, it has a dull appearance. Okay, so when metal exposed to the air, it shows the dull appearance. Okay, so what we can do to remove that metals has dull appearance, rubbed with sandpaper, it again show shining appearance. Okay, why metal has dull appearance? Because when metal exposed with air, it has the formation of oxide, carbonate and the sulfide layer on it, so that metal has dull appearance. Okay, removal of this dull appearance, what we can use? We use the sandpaper and rubbed with the metal, it again show the property of the lustrous, that means the shining property. Okay, let's discuss the last property, but not least. Okay, metal show the good conductor of heat and electricity. Okay, heat and the electricity. First example, heat. We will discuss here. Let's take an experiment is done to prove this why metal are the good conductor of heat and electricity. So let's discuss this. So let's take an aluminium rod which can be clamped to clamp stand. My drawing is not good, so you can adjust according to this. This is the iron nails that are attached to the aluminium rod with threads. Okay. This is the clamp stand. Okay? And let's apply here burner. What we can see that when we burn burner on the free end of this aluminium rod, what we can see that these iron nails are falling down. Then after some time, another iron nail is falling down. Then these iron nails are falling lastly. Why it can so? So, from this experiment we can conclude that the heat are the good conductor. The metal are the good conductor of the heat. Because aluminium is the metal, okay. Good conductor of heat, that basically means the heat are transferred from one place to other place, okay. If we apply burner on here, how this heat can be transferred into here and these wax are melting down and these nails, iron nails are falling down. Why we can say that? So basically when we, as you know, metals are the solid, as I discussed earlier. That means solid की बात कर रहे हैं. That means solid have the high force of attraction between the particle. So when we apply heat here, the bond between these atoms are break down and particles are oscillating on the solid. So what we can learn, electrons acquire some energy from the heat and it transfer that energy from one electron to other electron, and that's why we can say that metals are the good conductor of heat. I hope you will understand this. Let's discuss again. As I said earlier, metal are the solid. In solid, you can also study. You have studied about the in solid. There are lots of force of attraction between the particles of the atom. Force of attraction are maximum in case of solid. So that I discuss here. In solid, high force of attraction between the particle. Okay? So that when we apply heat, it break down the force of attraction, and that's electron are present in the solids. So this electron acquires some energy and it converted into, this energy is converted into electron to electron, so that I can say clearly that metal has the property of good conductor of heat. Okay. Where this property can be used? This property can basically used in the kitchen also. All the utensils are made from the metal. Okay, so this property is used here so that we can cook food easily in our homes. Because all these utensils are made from the metal, and metal are the good conductor of the heat, so the food is prepared. Last property is metals show good conductor of electricity. generally copper and aluminium metal can be used for the can be generally these are the good conductor of the electricity. So in our home wires are made from the metal, that is the copper and aluminium. On copper and aluminium wire there is some layer of the plastic covering. That layer is basically is the PVC, and PVC is an insulator. So this is basically from the protection purpose. Nothing else with this. Okay. Last point is this melting and boiling point. So as you know, metal are the solid. So for the breakdown of the solid particle, it takes lots of energy. Lots of like energy is required for breakdown of the solid. Okay, breakdown solid. So it can clearly shows that solid has high melting point and the boiling point, but exceptions are always there. So there is one exception, that is I discussed earlier, potassium and the sodium. Okay. Here metal is complete. Now we will discuss the non-metal. I hope you will understand the metal. Total 22 non-metals are there, in which 11 gases, 10 solid, 1 is liquid, and that 1 is liquid, that is the bromine. Okay. Non-metal are also used in our daily life. That is the oxygen is the non-metal, nitrogen is the non-metal. No? Oxygen is basically required for the breathing, for the respiration, oxidation of food also. So it also has some important properties. So let's discuss one by one. Non-metal. And the first point is it shows the property brittle. Brittle basically means which can be break down into pieces on hammering or stretching. Okay. That basically means which can be break down into pieces easily. As you can see that the tip of the pencil, that is made of the graphite, and graphite is the allotropic form of the carbon. Okay. So the tip of the pencil is made up of graphite, and that easily can be broken. So what we can say that the metal, non-metal show the brittle property. Okay. Non-metal are not so strong, so boiling and melting point are not that much high. Okay. It doesn't show the property of lustrous sonorous because these are the property of the metal only. 3 points I will discuss. As we talk about the melting and boiling points, so non-metal are not so hard, not so strong. So melting and boiling point also very low. Some non-metal can easily melt on our hand also. So as we done some experiments, we have to be very careful about that. Okay? Chemistry is not that easy to take with this. You have to remember some. Non-metal are not good conductor of heat and electricity. The point is clear here. So in today's video, I discussed the property differentiation between the metal and non-metal, about little bit about the periodic table and the physical property of the metal and non-metal.